For decades, the name Reggie Smith has been a symbol of gospel excellence, faith, and passion. His voice, powerful yet comforting, could lift spirits and bring tears to the eyes of thousands. His music didn't just fill churches, it reached far beyond those walls, echoing through concert halls, homes, and hearts all across the country. Every note carried messages of hope, strength, and unshakable belief. But behind that voice that inspired so many was a quiet mystery, a question that his loyal fans had been asking for years. They noticed the rare but tender moments when his wife appeared beside him, the subtle smiles they exchanged, and how she always seemed calmly yet reserved. She was there, but not quite in the spotlight. And that absence only deepened the curiosity. Who was the woman behind the man whose songs brought faith to millions? Why did she stay silent for so long? People wondered if there was more to the story, not out of gossip or judgment, but genuine admiration and care. What was Reggie keeping private? The answer, as the world would later learn, was not about scandal or secrets. It was a story about love, sacrifice, and the strength to endure life's hardest battles together. Reggie Smith's life was always guided by faith. But as it turns out, his deepest source of strength wasn't only his belief in God. It was the woman standing quietly beside him. For years, fans listened to his songs filled with messages of perseverance and faith without realizing they came from his own personal struggles. Many of the songs that lifted others during dark times were inspired by the trials he and his wife faced together. He once said, "The greatest song I'll ever sing is the life you've built together." And those words summed up everything. Their journey had not been easy. His wife had faced serious health challenges that tested their faith and love in ways most could never imagine. But through it all, Reggie stood by her side. Their silence wasn't about hiding from the world. It was about protecting something sacred. They chose privacy not out of pride, but out of peace. While the world speculated, they quietly lived out their vows in sickness and in health. Proving that love doesn't always need an audience. Reggie's story reminds us that sometimes the strongest relationships are the ones lived quietly away from fame and attention, built not on words but on steadfast faith and devotion. Reggie's journey in music began humbly. Growing up in the South, church wasn't just a Sunday activity. It was the heartbeat of the community. The choir was the soul of every service. And even as a young boy, Reggie's voice stood out. His tone carried something rare, an emotion that reached deep into people's hearts. By his teenage years, he was leading worship services, filling small churches with his powerful voice and unshakable faith. It wasn't long before gospel producers took notice. When he recorded his first album in his early 20s, his career took off almost overnight. His voice became a staple in gospel circles, blending traditional church harmonies with heartfelt storytelling. People didn't just hear his songs, they felt them. Despite his fame, Reggie remained humble and grounded in his roots. He often credited his wife for keeping him steady and focused, though she preferred to stay out of the public eye. While the world celebrated his success, his private life remained a mystery. And in an age where celebrities share every detail of their lives online, Reggie's silence stood out even more. Yet that silence wasn't emptiness. It was filled with love, faith, and quiet resilience. Fans began to notice patterns. Reggie's wife rarely appeared at public events, and when she did, she often avoided cameras. Some thought she was simply shy. Others suspected something deeper. When Reggie dedicated emotional songs to "the bravest person I've ever known," listeners wondered who he meant. His lyrics began to carry more emotion. References to battles fought in silence, blessings unseen, and storms weathered together. Something was happening behind the scenes. Then, in the middle of his most successful tour, several of his concerts were suddenly canceled. The official reason given was unforeseen personal matters. Fans grew worried, praying for him and his family. Weeks later, Reggie returned to perform at a small church instead of a large concert hall. The performance was different, raw, emotional, and deeply personal. With tears in his eyes, he dedicated a new song to his wife, calling her "the bravest person I've ever known." In that moment, the audience realized they were witnessing something far beyond music. It was a man expressing the deepest truth of his heart. Not long after that emotional performance, Reggie sat down for a rare and heartfelt interview. For years, he had stayed silent about his private life. But this time, he felt it was right to speak. The truth was that his wife had been battling a long-term serious medical condition, one that required constant care, strength, and faith. From the very beginning, they both agreed to keep it private. She never wanted the spotlight, Reggie explained. She wanted the music to speak, not her struggles, and he respected that. His words revealed the depth of his love and the quiet courage of his wife. She had been fighting her battle with grace and faith, and Reggie had been her anchor through it all. This revelation changed how people listened to his music. Suddenly, every song about perseverance and trust in God carried a new weight. The lyrics weren't just inspirational, they were deeply personal. Each verse reflected the real experiences of a couple who had weathered unimaginable storms with unwavering faith. The reaction was overwhelming. Fans across the world flooded social media with prayers and messages of support. Many shared their own experiences of caring for loved ones facing illness, finding comfort in Reggie's story. Churches mentioned the couple in their prayers, and fellow gospel singers praised their courage and devotion. What touched people most was how they had handled their struggle quietly, faithfully, without turning it into a spectacle. In a world where every emotion is shared online, Reggie and his wife had chosen silence, not because they were hiding, but because they wanted peace. That silence, it turns out, spoke louder than any public statement could. Their example reminded people that faith isn't always loud and love doesn't need to be displayed for validation. Reggie's story brought comfort to many who are going through similar pain, proving that even behind the brightest voices are stories of endurance and hope. After years of staying away from the spotlight, Reggie's wife finally decided to speak out, not to gain attention, but to express her gratitude and faith. In her quiet yet powerful message, she said, "Faith isn't always about being strong in public. Sometimes it's just waking up each day and choosing to trust God again." Her words touched thousands. For fans, it was the missing piece of the story, the voice behind Reggie's strength. She explained that her illness had changed her life, but also deepened her understanding of love and faith. She felt blessed to have a husband who stood by her through every difficult day, who turned their struggles into songs that gave others hope. Her message wasn't one of sadness, but of peace. She wanted people to know that every trial has a purpose and that God's love can shine even through the darkest storms. After her statement, many fans said they began listening to Reggie's songs with a new perspective, hearing the hidden message of faith, patience, and love that had always been there. When you listen to Reggie Smith's songs today, they feel different. Every lyric now carries a story. It was about sharing hope. And now, knowing his journey, fans see that message more clearly than ever. His concerts feel more personal, his words more genuine. Even those who don't follow gospel music have found inspiration in his story. It reminds everyone that behind every stage performance or spotlight, there's a real human being with struggles, faith, and love, just like the rest of us. Reggie and his wife's story continues to inspire countless people, not because of tragedy, but because of how they handled it with grace, unity, and love. While fame often fades, their story endures as a reminder that the strongest love stories aren't written on headlines, they're lived quietly in the background. Reggie's legacy isn't just in his records or awards. It's in the life he's built with the woman who stood beside him through everything. Their marriage has become a reflection of faith itself, steady, unbreakable, and full of peace even in pain. When Reggie said, "The greatest song I'll ever sing is the life you've built together," he wasn't speaking in poetry. He was speaking truth. And that truth has resonated far deeper than any chart-topping song could. His wife's courage and quiet strength gave meaning to every note he ever sang. Their love has become a light for others walking through their own storms, showing that even in silence, love speaks volumes. Today, when people hear Reggie Smith sing, they don't just hear a voice, they hear a story. A story of faith that refused to break, of love that endured pain, and of two souls who chose peace over publicity. Their legacy isn't just in the music they shared with the world, but in the example they set for what true commitment and faith look like. Reggie and his wife showed that you don't need fame or recognition to live a meaningful life. Sometimes the greatest testimonies are lived quietly in private moments of courage and devotion. And in the end, that's what makes their story timeless. The mystery that once surrounded them has been replaced with respect and admiration. Their journey has taught us that love doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers in hospital rooms, in late-night prayers, and in the quiet strength of a promise kept. And those whispers, just like Reggie's songs, will echo forever in the hearts of those who believe in the power of faith, love, and music. To understand the depth of Reggie Smith's story, we must also understand the heart behind his music. A heart shaped by faith, humility, and an unshakable belief in the healing power of song. Reggie wasn't born into fame or fortune. His journey began in a small southern town where faith wasn't just practiced on Sundays. It was woven into daily life. Church choirs, family prayers, and community gatherings filled his childhood with music and meaning. From a young age, Reggie felt that music was more than sound. It was a connection to something higher. He once said that when he sang, he wasn't performing. He was praying through melody. That belief became the foundation of his career. His voice, filled with both strength and tenderness, carried the message of God's grace into the hearts of people who needed it most. Whether he sang in any church or a packed concert hall, Reggie gave the same energy, the same passion, and the same purpose. He wasn't chasing fame. He was sharing faith. As Reggie's career grew, so did his influence in the gospel world. He became known for his emotional performances and his ability to turn personal struggles into messages of hope. His songs weren't about perfection or worldly success, they were about endurance, forgiveness, and the beauty of trusting God even when life didn't make sense. That's what set him apart. While others in the music industry focused on fame and recognition, Reggie stayed true to his calling. He believed his purpose was not to entertain, but to inspire. Fans often described him as a man who lived his lyrics. Someone who didn't just sing about faith, but embodied it in every part of his life. Behind his calm smile was a man who had walked through fire, who had known loss and pain, but still chose love over bitterness and gratitude over complaint. That authenticity made people trust him and feel connected to his music on a deeper level. Throughout his decades-long career, Reggie collaborated with many well-known gospel artists and choirs, but he never let fame change who he was. He remained humble, always giving credit to God and to the people who supported him, especially his wife. In interviews, he often mentioned that his greatest blessings were not awards or chores, but moments of peace and prayers shared with his loved ones. He would often tell younger singers to sing from the soul, not the spotlight, reminding them that real success comes from touching hearts, not just reaching charts. His words and actions made him a role model in the gospel community. Many fans saw in him the reflection of a true servant of God, someone who sang not for applause, but for purpose. Over the years, Reggie's music evolved, but his message stayed the same. Faith is stronger than fear, and love is greater than pain. He released numerous albums that became favorites in churches and Christian homes across America. Songs like Through the Storm, Grace in the Waiting, and Unseen Blessings carried messages of resilience and trust that spoke to people of all ages. Even those who weren't deeply religious found comfort in his words because they spoke to the universal human experience of struggle and hope. His concerts were more like worship gatherings than performances, filled with moments of joy, tears, and togetherness. Many people left his shows feeling renewed, saying that Reggie's voice had reminded them of God's presence in their own lives. That was his true gift, to turn personal pain into shared healing. What makes Reggie Smith's story so powerful is that his faith never wavered, even when tested by personal hardship. When his wife became ill, it would have been easy for him to retreat from the public eye or give up music entirely. But instead, he found a deeper purpose in it. His songs during those difficult years carried more emotion, more truth. Every lyric became a prayer for healing, every performance a declaration of faith. And even when he didn't talk about it publicly, the emotions came through in his music. That's why his fans say they could feel his heart when sang. His pain became their comfort, his faith became their encouragement. This connection between artists and audience is rare. And it's what turned Reggie from a talented singer into a spiritual leader for many. Today, Reggie Smith stands not just as a celebrated gospel singer, but as a symbol of perseverance and grace. His career